not in your world. And so, the more effort that I make to gain that knowledge of what you guys are looking for and, what would be useful, is really helpful for me too, to have that collaborative process. But one of the coolest things, and I think this was something I didn't really plan on happening, but I loved that it did. So that first course, the 10 pre-recorded classes, I had a meeting with Phoenix after everything. And I'm sitting in the office and I'm talking to one of the sergeants who's been one of my biggest advocates. He helped me with my AZ post certification, and, we're chit chatting, and, that relationship has always been like really near and dear to me too, talk about his wife and his, his family and his, the things that is going on in his life too, and that's been really rewarding. Everyone I work with, I want them to feel like they know me and I know them, I'm not a big corporation, I'm a single business owner, and I really do care. And I want everyone to feel that. And so, we're chit chatting, and one of the sergeants walks by and he comes in and he's like, "You're Paige." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I take your yoga classes 3 times a week in the virtual course." He's like, "I love them. They've changed my life." He's like, "And I practice at home with my wife and my daughter." And, she's this really little girl. And he said she rolls out her little yoga mat and she does the best that she possibly can. And I've heard stories like this over the years of, this becoming more a part of their life, and their spouses are practicing with them and their kids are practicing with them. And so that's not something I anticipated happening, but it's something that kind of organically happened. And I think that as far as like a success story, it's like hearing those things where people are reaching out to me being like, "I was in the military and I've had chronic back pain for years and your classes have helped me," or I get to bond with my family, like those are the things that like mean so much to me. It's, and that's kind of, what keeps me going, is knowing that I'm helping, I'm trying to help as much as I can. So I hope that answered your question. I don't know if it's too vague, but I think that I look back on that, and that's been like the biggest success for me, is to hear that it's really improving quality of life for, the individuals who do partake in the classes.
Yeah. And I can relate to it because it's the same with this podcast. When I first started it, it was kind of a theory, how can I help bridge gaps and educate and do all that stuff? And I didn't really know what I was going to get. And as it kept happening, I would get stories from people. People would send me messages. One of my favorites is my Bruce Anderson episode. He comes on, and the whole point was to talk about how he was involved in a shooting, and what officers can expect when they get in that type of position. Like there's a lot of fallout that people don't know about. Like he almost got divorced because he didn't think anything was wrong with him. He wasn't getting the help he needed. It turned out he had severe PTSD, and there's all these signs and symptoms that he had that he didn't recognize. And he'd always been that guy that was like, "If you need me, call me. I will help you guys." He didn't even see he needed his own advice at the time. So, and he ends up having like an actual like PTSD moment on the show. And by the end, he's telling people, "I'm on medication now. I'm good." Like that's a stigma for cops. We don't like being on medication. We sure shit don't like talking about it. So he gets on and he goes, "It's okay to not be okay. I was in that boat," and da 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 da. So long story short, put that episode out, and it was maybe a week or two later, I get an email from Washington, the state, and then one from DC. So I bring that up because it's the two farthest points I can think of almost on the map, unless it was like the tip of Florida. And both of them said that one told me he got on medications because of Bruce's episode. Like it helped him. He's like, "Man, I've just kind of been on the fence." And then to hear him talk about all the things he went through was all the same things I'm going through, and he's in a better place. He's like, "And I'm not, because I haven't got on these meds. So it helped me get on these meds. Thank you." I was like, "All right, that's a cool success story." And then I get across the map. I think it was a lieutenant saying that he had clipped out parts of the episode and showed it in his roll call. And I'm like, holy shit. Like I will attribute that episode for me driving on and keeping this thing going is with the drive and the determination that I've had. So with you getting somebody coming up to you, one, recognizing you, that's fucking cool. It's always cool. I've had people do that too now. And they're like, hey, you got that podcast, right? The Two Cops and a Donut thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they're like, I love it. And it's cool. It's a cool motivator. But to hear that it's what you're throwing out there is educating, it's improving the quality of life, and that it's not far-fetched, and you may not think of it this way, but that mobility may have saved an officer's life. It may have saved somebody else's life because they were physically able to do something they weren't before, and because of that new ability, they were able to do the job just that much better. You ever think of it like that?
I didn't think about it like that, but I have thought about, mobility and the impact that it has on your mental, right? And so I have thought about it in that way of like, if your shoulder starts feeling better, right, then what happens? Your mood improves, your productivity improves. So I've thought of like the impact or the effects that those things have, but I haven't put that in the perspective of being able to save someone's life in a way that you may not have been able to do. I think that's really powerful.